Welcome, everyone, to a terrific program that Matter is hosting together with Accenture. Every year, Accenture mounts a global challenge to identify and help advance companies that are pursuing outstanding health tech solutions. We were delighted to support their effort this year and continue work with them to advance our shared goals. I will tell you a little bit about Matter and then turn it over to the Accenture team to explain the program and introduce the companies who will be presenting today. I should also probably say that my name is Stephen Collins and I am the CEO of Matter. We are a healthcare technology incubator and innovation hub that helps people and organizations transform ideas into solutions that improve the healthcare experience. We do three things in service of our mission. First, we incubate startups. Since we launched 6 years ago this week, we have worked with more than 500 companies that range from very early stage to growth stage startups. Our 2020 member companies have collectively raised more than $1.7 billion to fuel their growth, and they're located all over the world. And we have a suite of services to help them grow at every stage. Second thing we do, we work with large organizations, health systems, life sciences companies, payers, to help them achieve their innovation goals. We help them source and co-develop solutions, think through complex challenges, and we have training capabilities to help them innovate better. We've worked with more than 130 organizations since we launched, helping them innovate and achieve their business goals. Third, we're a nexus for people who are passionate about healthcare innovation and healthcare transformation. We bring people together to be inspired and learn and connect with each other. We produce a lot of programs, including large-scale events for the broader community and small forums that are exclusive for our members and our partners. We've had a partnership with Accenture since we launched in 2015. Accenture helped us with our own strategy and has been deeply involved in helping guide many of our member companies and helping us engage with our corporate partners. We've worked with a lot of people at Accenture, but thanks in particular to Laura Westerkamp and Francis Bruce and Susan Ziegler for engaging with us in today's program. Our core belief at Matter is that the best way to develop healthcare solutions is when entrepreneurs are collaborating with the established industry, and programs such as Accenture's HealthTech Venture Challenge advance that goal. So we're delighted to be able to showcase the finalist companies, and I know that everyone watching will enjoy the presentations. One of our friends and allies at Accenture is Tom Kawalec, who will provide an overview of the Accenture HealthTech Innovation Challenge. Tom is the managing director in Accenture's Life Sciences practice and the Midwest Life Sciences go-to-market lead with P&L responsibility for Accenture's clients in the region. He's also a member of Matter's advisory board and a frequent participant in our forums, where he always inserts valuable perspective and wisdom based on his 30 years in the industry. It is a pleasure to work with him, and Tom, I will turn it over to you to facilitate the rest of the program.
Thank you, Stephen. As always, we love collaborating with Matter, and very excited about the fact that this year's virtual event, as all things have gone virtual, that our innovation challenge was so nicely partnered with the capabilities, the forums, and the leadership from you and our Matter team. So welcome. Today is a showcase of a challenge that we ran towards the end of last year that really resulted in just some outstanding innovation and ideas and advancements across many areas in the industry. So let me take you through a little bit of what the showcase is going to entail today. If we go to the next slide, the agenda we have, I'm going to give you just a little bit of a background following Stephen here on the HealthTech Innovation Challenge, why we run it at Accenture, what we believe is the importance of this, and very akin to what Stephen mentioned about the purpose at Matter. We'll then have the startups that we had as our finalists all present their products, their offerings, their capabilities, So you can get a real sense of 4 of our 5 finalists who are able to join us today. And then we're going to hear from some folks from industry. So Prem, Hema, and Jimmy are going to give us their views on the importance of innovation, the role at some of our clients, our industry participants, how they think about innovation and what it means to them, and why things like these innovation challenges and the broader entrepreneur and startup community is so important to their agenda, advancing innovation in our leaders within life sciences. So that's our agenda for today. It'll be a quick tour and hopefully give you a very good flavor. So on to the next slide. The Health Tech Innovation Challenge is something we've run for a number of years now. And in this past year, due to a variety of issues, we actually consolidated into one global event that we co-hosted again with our friends at Matter, and had 25 leaders from across the industry in biopharma and med tech, on the provider side, some payer, some suppliers to the life sciences industry, and the leaders, either from digital or in business units, from their broader CIO side of the organization, help us to run our challenge for this year. And Health Tech Innovation Challenge, and innovation specifically, is at the center of our belief system at Accenture. And so, when we step back and we think about what our purpose is at Accenture, which quite simply is to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. And we put that purpose in the context of health, and specifically in this case of life sciences. It means effectively, saving lives. It means prolonging lives, and it means changing the way that people work and live. And so our challenge this year started to follow what we saw as the trend, and frankly, it preceded what became a very strong reality under the auspices of how we change how we work and live under COVID. And so we asked the startup community, how might we transform the patient experience prior, during, and after care? So this notion of care moving outside of traditional care, points of care, into retail clinics, into at home, virtual care, obviously, et cetera, and how might we really transform that experience from a core of our business? And so it was an exciting challenge, and really amplified by the realities that hit us globally around the world. And so we couldn't have been happier to see a broad response to that. If you go to the next slide, please. We actually curated 169 applicants from around the globe. And a set of our leaders from across our global life sciences, health practice within, and our ventures team within Accenture, helped to kind of cull down that group of applicants to about 20 folks, and then further identified five finalists that were part of the actual panel to select our winner. And so all of these companies brought tremendous innovation. And when we went through the deliberation with our client panelists, the ideas and what they were looking for was the level of business impact, technical feasibility within the environments that exist within our life sciences companies and the health companies, partnering potential with the startups, and their ability to fit into a model and a business model that allowed them to evolve with those companies, and overall value, impact, and viability going forward. So those were some of the things that were part of the selection process, and that our panelists applied to this. So I couldn't be happier to be rejoined by Normans from CARDIOLYSE, Yair from Dionysi Health, Tyler from Medable, and Sam from Sidekick. Sadly, we don't have our friends from Particle Health with us today, but they're with us in spirit, to replay a little bit of their proposition to not just the industry, but to that challenge that we put out more broadly in order to bring that innovation and change the nature of care going forward. So I'm tremendously excited to have them. I'm going to have Francis Bruce from our ventures team help to curate and walk us through a little bit of the feedback from each of them today. Then we'll move to our panelists with our good friend and leader, Laura Westerkamp, and then I'll come back to close us out. So with that, Francis, off to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for the warm welcome. And we're really excited to bring in our companies again today. If we jump to the next slide, we have a great view on some of the finalists we're going to be hearing from today. Really excited to start with Norman's from Cardiolyse, really thinking about the future of heart health. So we're really happy to have you in today. And with that said, we'll have you kind of kick us off with a bang.
Sure. Greetings, everyone. So my name is Normans. I'm representing the Finnish company, Cardiolyze. So we're the world's most comprehensive solution for heart failure patients. And let me tell you more about it. So next slide, please. Currently, in the times that we are living, we see that 1 in 3 lives are lost due to cardiovascular diseases. Actually, a lot of them could be saved if we knew about the challenges. Chronic patients are now left in isolation. There is a lack of remote monitoring tools for them. So that means also some delay in treatment for the patients. Post-discharge patients who are currently going out of the hospitals are lacking the follow-up. And we see that by statistics of how many readmissions are happening. And if we talk about some clinical trial management, we also see that the changes there are happening due to isolation and due to maybe lack of direct contact to the clinical trial participants. So next slide, please. So how do we address these challenges? We have a heart health analytics platform that is built for healthcare providers as well as pharma companies with such unique features as risk certifications of patients' current heart health. We're automating the analytical layer of the data that's coming in from the heart. We're following all the latest guidelines. We're personalizing each individual reports by machine learning. We're device agnostic, so that means we can integrate different kind of home use or professional ECG devices. And we're easy to integrate ourselves into existing ecosystems. So next slide, please. So this is the big picture how the solution looks. So there's a chronic patient or post-discharge patient at the comfort of their home with some kind of connected devices. The data goes automatically to our cloud for analytics. The doctors can overview the patients and have some notifications and see the current state of each one of them, as well as patients themselves. We're keeping them engaged, allowing them to co-create their health, showing the engaging scores and trends over the time. We're fully CE marked for now, and we're expecting FDA clearance by the end of this year. Next slide, please. So we have 2 important components. First is the ECG analytics. So that allows us to look at the arrhythmias, short-term as well as long-term monitoring. Next slide. And the second component is the heart rate variability analytics. The value is actually in combining both of these components together, which allows us to see the lifestyle changes and even some smallest treatment strategy impact of heart health. So that could include even some exercise, nutrition or medication change, and we can see how those changes of services are influencing the heart health. So next slide, please. On top of that, we have our intellectual property. We have 3 separate scoring systems. First part is the regular arrhythmias. So we look around 20 arrhythmias that we can manage and help decision support for the doctors. And next slide, please. Second part is the level of myocardial damage. This is the heart muscle that is really important for the post-discharge patients. We can also see the effectiveness of some post-discharge activities and the rehabilitation processes, and does they bring effect for the patients. And next slide. And the third part is the universal ECG scoring system. This is our patented scoring system It's a quantitative assessment of overall patient's well-being, and you can see some screenshots how the patient is seeing that from his side in the application, and he can follow up on his progress. Next slide, please. So let me tell you some use cases. So for healthcare providers, we're learning the challenges that we're seeing are the readmissions as well as some recurring arrhythmias for heart failure patients. So this is the doctor's dashboard where they could see and overview the patients as well as have some risk certification of the patients and see who might need some immediate attention. Next slide. And from the other side, the wide capability of analytics has really brought us some traction also from the pharma companies and the clinical trial management. We can see up more than 300 subtypal parameters from the heart. So that allows us to see the dose change, the therapy change, how the patient reacts to the smallest changes. So this could also add value to the current practices. Next slide, please. Our current business model is straightforward. We B2B software as a service model for healthcare providers, but we're open for partnership models with telemedicine providers addressing post-discharge and chronic patient cases. Next slide, please. Our validation for the last 4 years, we've been actively working with Oxford University. We have a great publication end of last year validating the algorithms that are behind this solution. Next slide, please. We have also validated the solution with ongoing pilot projects and paying customers, starting from telemedicine providers, device manufacturers, pharma companies, as well as some insurance companies. Next slide. The patented innovation I mentioned is one part that is already in place. We have some pending patents as well that is upcoming during this year. Next slide. We have a great team behind the solution with a quite big knowledge in data science and cardiology expertise, as well as a few advisors I would like to mention here. As an example, one of the biggest telemedicine provider executive from the pharmacy point of sales side, as well as the ex-CEO of one of the European big pharma companies. Next slide. We're at this point now, we're ready to scale this solution and make an impact to help the doctors, especially during these times of isolation, to have a proper trusted decision support tool for them, as well as allowing patients to participate in their healthcare process. So we're looking for healthcare providers and pharma companies to work together and add value to the heart health analytics. Next slide. So just to summarize, Cardiolyze is a remote heart health analytical solution. We have risk certification and automatic data interpretation, allowing to save time and costs. We have our unique scoring system on top of that. We have validated the solution in Oxford as well as other paying and pilot project customers. We're fully CE marked as a medical device, and we're working on the FDA to finish end of this year. Next slide, and that's my last slide. So thank you for information, and let's improve the heart health together.
Hi, thank you everyone. So my name is Yair Brosh. I'm the CEO of DONISI Health. And at DONISI Health, we were able to create a system that allows us to measure bioindicators remotely. So if you look at the picture in front of you, you would see the concept where you have a device, which is, this version is the tabletop device, and you have the people living their life, so you don't need to undress or connect to wires or anything else. And we do all the calculations in the backgrounds and provide the insight. Next slide, please. So when we analyze the trends, we were looking at what's happening in the healthcare market, focusing on the shift from hospital to home, the adherence issues that associate with it, the shortage of caregiver, the silver tsunami increasing the need, the chronic disease increase, and in the US we have the high readmission rates. With all of that ecosystem, what we were able to identify is that when you look more specifically at pulmonary disease, you see that within the community, the main tool that doctors use is the same stethoscope that they use for ages now. And we are offering a technology that can help with a very high accuracy device and very significant insights based on our device. So next, please. So when we're looking at pulmonary, the first things that comes to mind is CHF, meaning pulmonary congestion. The numbers are amazing. So people that are hospitalized for the first time with heart failure would readmit 20% of them after 30 days and 50% of them after 180 days, which is phenomenal numbers. Next, please. The readmission cost is about $70,000. Next. So we see that there is a huge issue with big numbers. Next, please. And the current standard of care is very basic. So currently people are being asked to weigh themselves on a regular scale. The indication comes relatively late, and we see that it doesn't really help to prevent the next readmission. Next, please. So when we looked at what's out there in the market, we saw that there are none really relevant alternatives for treatment within the community. There are only 2 certified alternatives. One of them requires a surgery. It's basically an implant. The other one is an RF-based device, again, targeted at hospital and very expensive. There are some initiatives that are voice-based. None of them was certified. Next, please. So when we look at the overall need and market, we see a market of about $36 billion, and that's just for heart failure. We see that there are around 1 million people just in the US would visit hospital or be released from hospital after heart failure. Next, please. And based on the above, we feel that we are positioned in a very unique situation where our device that was clinically validated and tested and submitted now is basically the only available device that could help within the community or at home. Next, please. So what makes us so unique? First of all, we are a cutting edge technology company. So we're based on very deep technology. We have 26 patents around electro-optics, the ability to convert our nano vibration measurements into movement, other patents around converting that into sound, or basically creating a digital stethoscope, remote digital stethoscope to be more precise. When adding the one lead ECG that you see in the picture, basically we're getting the unique ability to look at a 100% synchronized image of the movement or the mechanical movement, if you want, the electronic activity of the heart and the sounds. The ability to see all 3 of them 100% synchronized allows us, A, to be more specific and B, very accurate. And this is the basics that allowed us to be able to identify 9 bioparameters and basically take that into a position where we can provide personalized predictive insights. Next, please. So this is the device and the technology in a high level. So basically we have a device with a light source, so waves in the ranges of infrared towards the laser. We have a very unique optic sensor that allows us to capture those nano movements, and the ability to convert them is all done via algorithms. So we don't need anything from the person being measured other than be visible to the device. We are agnostic to lighting conditions, to clothes, and to skin color or physics. Next, please. So currently we're in a situation where we have 3 clients in the US and 1 in Israel. You see in front of you the 9 parameters that we're able to measure. We have more in process, so we are focusing now more and more towards identifying pulmonary diseases. Next, please. We have done over we have in our database around 1,500 patients data with gold standard references. We submitted to the FDA in June and expect to get our approval towards the end of Q1 this year, so 2 months from now. And we lately received the BIRD Award, and we're starting a project with Dell towards minimizing our sensor. Next, please. So here are some real-world evidence from the 4 sites we're managing. You see that pulmonary congestion was identified several times, sometimes around 10 and even more days ahead of the ability to get to weight indications. AFib was identified pretty often. Next, please. The more important thing is that because we're focusing in our current installations at senior care providers, we were able to provide insights to over 64% of the participants on different deviation from norm. Next, please. So I'll go, can you move, looking at the watch, can you click next 3 times, please? 1 more, and 1 more. Next. So those are some feedbacks we got from the field. So you see some testimonials. Basically, every place we were installed gave us testimonials. So it gives you a very powerful feedback of what's happening, the meaningful insights we were able to give, the early detection, the improvement of life for those we serve, and the need is very clear. Next, please.
30 seconds
This
left.
is our, this is our awesome team. So we have Professor Zev Zabletsky, Dr. Sagi Polani, and the rest. Next and last. So for us, it's very rewarding to come to work and realize that today we were able to provide significant insights to help improve someone's life. We're looking for strategic partners with regards to senior care, remote patient monitoring, telehealth, and of course, all the everything that relates to it. Next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you to Accenture and to Matter for inviting us back here today. We've really enjoyed this all the events and everything that's been involved. So look forward to meeting with everyone today and moving forward. Next slide, please. So my name is Tyler Pugsley, Vice President of Life Sciences at Medable, and we are mission driven on enabling kind of a new era of research where patients can access clinical trials anytime, anywhere, from any device, really in the convenience that fits into their daily lives. I think one of the differentiators that our company has really at our core is that we were founded by Dr. Michelle Longmire while she was in residency at Stanford. So not only do we have a practicing dermatologist who sees patients still to this day as our CEO, but also she has a background in research, and not only in research, but also patients with rare disease, patients identical twins with rare disease, looking at different genetic factors, as well as studying true to life data. So really at our core, we are that focused company on enabling this new era of research through our technology platform. Next slide, please. So everyone is probably aware of this, how decentralized research went from sort of an edge case that people were interested in to really the main case throughout 2020, and now we're in 2021, where sites were shut down, patients were not able to travel, there's lockdown restrictions in place. And so we just saw a massive increase in the utilization of decentralized strategies as well as technology, really across the entire clinical trial ecosystem, whether that's collecting additional data from patients at home, utilizing telemedicine, direct-to-patient lab shipments, or drug shipments, really enabling this more future-forward ecosystem within clinical trials, which we are encouraged by and also see this as something that won't just be, here for a year or so during the pandemic, but really here to stay as we, see all the additional benefits. Next slide, please. So looking at what we offer a technology platform with several different modules to enable your specific protocols or study design to be conducted in more of a patient-centric, decentralized fashion. So one of those would be starting off with recruitment. So with our system that's available on iOS, Android, and the web, patients can access via a link on social media, via direct outreach, maybe on a, one of the sponsor websites that's also targeting patients for specific trials. So you simply can enable that immediate access via that link via, multiple different modalities. A component of this afterwards would be the remote screening. So anything from a screening questionnaire to lab kits, genetic samples, all available via simple, easy to use interface, which can track any of the shipping or distribution of those additional kits. And then of course your 21 CFR Part 11 compliant e-consent. Within the system, we also offer gamification and notifications, as well as your standard ECOA assessments. So this could be, on-site in more of a hybrid setting or a traditional model, as well as via televisit, actually, assessing the patient status via that ECOA during that telemedicine visit. And then of course your ePros and eDiaries on the patient side, as well as additional sensors or wearables for remote monitoring. We offer 24/7 support. So obviously we're putting more of the onus on patients to capture this data continuously. So there is that support aspect that is really key in terms of actually deploying something or enabling this in the real world, not just a hypothetical. And then of course the televisits for follow-up, whether that's a scheduled visit or ad hoc. I touched on the lab data earlier. That can be not only during the remote screening, but also on trial data capture, whether that's sending kits directly to the patient's home, or even having them go to a patient service center, which could be like in a Walgreens or a CVS or a LabCorp or Quest. And then lastly, I'll touch on that we also offer the ability to engage caregivers. So if it's a pediatric study or an LAR, so legally authorized representative of a patient, you have the ability to enable those additional roles to either contribute all the data on behalf of patients, as well as maybe just kind of some of the data based on their observations. Next slide, please. So with our platform, this is a fully cloud-based system. We offer, we built an application layer on top of the platform, which enables those patient-facing, site-facing, and trial management applications. So all of the data that is captured is available in real time. And then the individual modules can be, you can select which ones you need based on that protocol or based on the study design or patient population, whether that's from a demographic perspective, geographic, to comply with local regulatory policies. It really gives you that flexibility, which we see as we are the tech company enabling our sponsor, CRO, and additional partners to be able to leverage that to the best of their ability and to be able to create more of a seamless environment for data capture. Next slide, please. So just kind of walking through, in a example patient journey, we could have patients that are recruited via a referral or social media. They can simply click that link, go to download the app or access via the web, go through their screening questionnaires. We can offer a teleconsent to confirm eligibility, as well as provide that opportunity for patients to ask any questions about the consent. And then once patients have signed off and the investigator has signed off, we can follow up with direct communication. We could also, ship devices or additional study supplies to those patients, include the tracking, as well as the ability for patients to confirm they received it via barcode or QR code. And then once patients are in the trial, we have any of that additional data capture, whether it's from diaries, images, as well as additional follow-ups with televisits. Let's go to the very last slide. We'll jump ahead. One best. And so, we realize that there's a big change with going from a traditional model to decentralized. And so we're incredibly excited about, our partnership with Accenture to be able to bring not only from a technology perspective in terms of integrations and the ability to, stand up the technology solution at scale, but also the change management, because we realize that, there are many roles involved within the entire trial ecosystem. And so it is absolutely critical to be able to provide additional training and support and really get everybody on board with enabling this new approach. I think I'm at time, so thank you all so much.
It's great to be here today. My name is Sam. I'm one of the two co-founders of Sidekick. We're a company originally from the Nordics, but now we have offices in the US and Central Europe with a growing number of B2B customers. We're 60 full-time employees. And we have partnerships with leading pharma, such as Pfizer, which we have scaled to 10 countries now, AstraZeneca, Bayer, and others, and are working across TAs with the top 3 payer in the US. And we recently closed a $20 million round just to go deeper in how we uniquely target low motivation and low health literacy. So what we have is a patient-centric digital care platform offering patient support programs and remote patient monitoring across a wide range of therapeutic areas. And we have a proven track record of improving health outcomes and adherence from working with tens of thousands of patients. Engaging key opinion leaders and patient advocacy groups is a part of our work, as well received. And last but not least, we specialize in generate value from the data, designing real-world data strategies and health economics and outcomes data strategies, filling knowledge gaps, and even include some standalone digital therapeutic strategies with the pharma partners. So next slide, please. I'm also here to tell you that we have a tsunami of adherence and laughter-related diseases. My background is actually that I'm a medical doctor. I used to practice internal medicine and cardiology, working a lot with psychotherapy prevention. And I sometimes share kind of the tipping point for me from working at the hospital. I had this patient with cardiovascular disease that wasn't engaged. He was just getting worse under my care. And I was doing my job telling the patient, if you don't take your medication right and improve your lifestyle, you will increase the likelihood of a new heart attack by X% within Y years. And I'll never forget this moment 8 years ago when I looked outside the window and I saw the patient lighting a cigarette. But what I also realized that the patient was much more engaged with his smartphone than was ever with me. So that was the birth of Sidekick, the patient's own little helper in the pocket. Next slide, please. So we join forces with partners that share our vision that there is tremendous room for improvement and value generation if you are able to nudge people's behavior a tiny bit. Next slide, please. And we come from behavioral science and digital engagement, and what we have created on the surface is a gamified patient engagement engine with emphasis on treatment adherence and individualization. And next slide, please. But under the hood, we have actually coded these behavioral triggers and data analytics, and we're based on research from the Boston area in the US, amongst other places. Next slide, please. So we have already a very large database that we are able to mine and create algorithms to improve personalization, which is key when it comes to engagement. Next slide, please. And one of our unique USPs, if you will, is this platform approach. As an example, with Pfizer, inflammation and immunology, they don't want a partner for each of the 5 TAs within I&I. They want a single reliable partner, so we provide that with them. So we work across therapeutic areas. Next slide, please. The platform comes in tiers. In tier 1, you have the specialized treatment programs. Next slide. Then you very often have the premium patient service, which is often connected with a brand, with our pharma partners. Next slide. And then we're seeing more and more of care teams integrating with this. And as I mentioned, we work with payers and providers as well. And this has been accelerated, obviously, due to COVID, amongst other reasons. So next slide, please. A part of the solution is the care portal, which is either operated by our own care managers as a part of the service, or it's used by, as an example, the large payer in the US has their own care teams that operate the portal, engaging thousands of patients. Next slide, please. The value we bring, again, is in these 3 buckets. We have been able to show improved health outcomes and improved adherence. Number 2 is the market access piece, creating partnerships with key stakeholders and generating strong value from the data in relation to both affecting bottom line when working with brands and more longer term strategies like getting reimbursed for the digital component. Next slide, please. I have a few examples of clinical validation, but what our partners really love is the industry-leading retention and engagement, engaging diverse populations over long periods of time. Next slide, please. We've done a number of clinical trials like this one, showing that patients with Sidekick were 3 times more likely to achieve set weight loss goals and a 30% better treatment adherence. Next slide, please. This is a study on type 2 diabetes from an independent hospital system showing dramatic improvements in long-term blood sugar. Next slide, please. We always monitor quality of life thoroughly and report back to our partners. Next slide, please. And here's an example of a study with our pharma partner with actually Bayer in Europe, where we had the median age of the patients being 72 years of age. So that was a personal record for us at Sidekick. Next slide. So now coming to an end, here are more results working with Pfizer on I&I condition called ulcerative colitis. And I'm happy to go into more details and depth around our research and connect later on. So you can just jump to the last slide, please. We're now coming to an end. Thank you so much. Happy to take any questions or connect to go into more details. Thank you.
Hey guys, very excited to be here. Thank you for joining us on a snowy Tuesday in many parts of North America, if you're located here. Laura Westerkamp, I lead our future care and disruptive business models here at Accenture, and we have spent the last 45 minutes hearing from some great innovative startups, and now we want to kind of pull this back into what are we hearing from our leaders in industry and how are they thinking about innovation? So we've got a great set of folks here today, Prem, Jimmy, and Hema. So Prem, let me start with you. Thank you so much for joining us. If you could spend a minute or two telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what innovation means to you at Merck.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Laura, and nice to be with the panel today. So my name is Prem Kosid. I'm a managing director at the Merck Global Health Innovation Fund. And the fund was sort of an early leader in this space. We were established in 2010, 11 years ago now, as a way for Merck to invest in digital health and healthcare IT platforms. And we've invested very, very broadly across things like HIPAA-compliant cloud hosting, like ClearData, Livongo. We led their Series C, which is sort of analogous to some of the areas we heard about today, and then even Preventive Solutions, which we just exited in the heart failure space as well. And so, Merck has been always prioritized sort of outside innovation, but over the past couple of years, there's really been an emphasis for us to work with our business partners within our corporate parent to really help them think about how to bring innovation, not only from our investment portfolio, but to think about how they can use and leverage that to quote unquote innovate other parts of their businesses too.
Great, thanks, Prem. Really appreciate it. And Hema, I would love it if you could also introduce yourself and share a little bit about the same topic. Kind of what does innovation mean to you at J&J, at Janssen? How are you thinking about it?
Thank you. Nice to meet everyone virtually. My name is Hema Kher. I'm new to J&J Innovation, and I'm part of our IT organization and do a lot of digital sourcing, landscaping deals. Prior to this, I actually was the CTO of a startup, so I have both perspectives, large healthcare company and as an entrepreneur. And I have to say, I think J&J is, like many other companies, digital data science is becoming integral to all parts of the organization, pharma, med device, and consumer. And J&J Innovation has a very comprehensive approach. So starting with J Labs, which are 14 incubators around the world. Our newest one is going to open in Washington, D.C. Later this year, which is really focused on incubation and mentoring, advice, really getting that idea from a concept into a company. And then we have our innovation centers, which are focused on innovation acceleration, research, scientific collaborations to really produce evidence into the market. Our investment fund, which is called JJDC, which is equity investments, venture funding of different sorts, which have made, I think, 4 or 5 investments in data science and digital health in 2020. And then Janssen Business Development, which is M&A and licensing. So we're really looking at the entrepreneur startup journey end to end, and how can we be the best partner for your company, wherever you are in your life cycle.
Oh, that's fantastic, Hema. Really appreciate you sharing. And Jimmy, last but not least, of course, if you could share a little bit about what you're doing at Bayer, and thank you for joining us from Europe, I believe, today, and how you're thinking about innovation.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thanks for inviting me. So I'm Jimmy Jagwani, so currently leading digital transformation and innovation at Bayer and focusing on IT topics. So what is important for Bayer currently, and very similar to what the other panelists said, one is to the incubation topic, looking at number one, partnering with companies or even investing in companies where we see a potential going forward. So that's I would say a large part of the work that we do. But secondly, I would say also partnering with a large, with quite a few startups which are either in a specific market or are coming up with business models which are adjacent to what we do. And this is more, I would say, in today's world, more, I would say, setting up a joint or a co-developed, I would say, product/service for the patient. So this, in a nutshell, I would say that's where we spend bulk of the resources as far as innovation is concerned. There's a third one which I would also like to mention, which is more midterm, and this is, if I understand what I learned from my other panelists also, co-panelists also, is to look at more futuristic technologies. And this is where we have our LEAPS fund, which is again investing roughly into 5 to 6 startups and mid-sized startup, I would say, which have at least seen some I would say experimentations of proof of concept. So I would say different models, but I'm happy to also see that it's very similar to what I heard with the previous panelist.
Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy. And maybe you could get us started on the next question too, and then we'll move to Hema and Prem. And you touched on this a little bit, but as you're thinking about engaging with the startup ecosystem, what are some of the big problems that you think, I'm going to engage a startup, they're going to help me think through this and solve it?
Yeah, I would say, let me start off with the first one. So typically, I would say there is a lot of energy that you find with startups, and more so in the prototyping stage, when first time you are trying something out. The challenge primarily comes when you really want to kind of scale the topics up. So this is one thing, one topic that we are always seeing. Obviously, we have to do more experiments, more prototypes to move to the next level, which is scaling. But this is where I would say at least a well-thought strategy has to be in place in terms of, number one, funding, in terms of understanding what's the real impact or return on investment going to be. So this, for me, in my broad experience here in innovation space, scaling is one of the topics which I find. Second one is, if I look at it, is in the ecosystem, there are quite a few cast of characters, and for the right reasons, you need many than a few of them. But putting all of them together, getting the entire company to work with an external partner, which I think it requires a big mindset shift. I think bringing them all together to understand why we are really doing this. These are the two big challenges which I see primarily.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate that. And Hema, maybe you could give us your thoughts too on what are the problems you go to solve and go link into that startup ecosystem.
I think there's a few topics that come to mind. One, I think some of the companies talked about the move to remote and home health. I think as a company, we're looking at startups to really help just accelerate and catalyze our own strategy and our own thinking in that space, and find who we can partner with who have really interesting home health monitoring that's not invasive to patients across our therapeutic areas. I think another one is disease prevention and diagnosis. So what can be applied early on to prevent disease at the point of care or with the patient to actually catch it before it becomes later stage. So whether that's image detection or algorithms, we're thinking a lot about that. And then the last I would say is combination products plus digital. So drug plus digital, either monotherapy or together, dual therapy or baskets. We're really interested in how can startups and external companies kind of infuse us with that thinking and change the way we will bring products to market.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Hema. And Prem, if you could round us out with your thoughts on kind of where and how you engage with startups. What are the problems you go to them to help solve?
Sure. I mean, our mandate is to really look at outside innovation. So we've invested in everything from, microbiome analytics to quantum computing. So these are kind of big, industry moving questions. But, where I see the most collaboration between, our portfolio or outside innovation with our, corporate parent really is kind of in the tools building aspect where, there are capabilities that, we just don't have or don't want to build. Or access to populations or patients or things that we just don't have in-house. That's where we tend to be more successfully in partnership with some of our portfolio companies and corporate parent.
Awesome. Thanks, Prem. And I realize we've only got about 5 minutes left, and you guys are such a great set of folks to tap. So I'd encourage, if there's any questions in the Q&A, please pop them over. I saw we've gotten a couple for our startup partners, which we'll try to tackle in the final few minutes here. So one big kind of magic wand question that I always wonder about, and I'm so eager to ask you guys, what are some of the innovation areas that you think are untapped right now that you just wish you could find a startup partner to come into the fold for you? I know this is a big question. Hema, do you want to start us off, and then we'll move to Jimmy and Prem?
We're doing, and I mentioned this, a lot of landscaping on prediction of disease. So how can you, and we have an initiative called the Lung Cancer Initiative, which is really looking at, can you take population-based methods or consumer-based methods to predict who is at risk? And that requires a whole bunch of different approaches. So I would say that's where we're searching. Also in mental health, again, predicting relapses, predicting before disease or therapy is even kind of required, among a few others.
Great. Okay, so as early as possible, use data and analytics, population health, and think about prediction. So nip it in the bud before the disease progression really comes into play. Jimmy, any thoughts? If you could wave your magic wand, what areas would you like startups to try to help solve for you? Where there's some untapped potential?
Yes, I would say if I look at the kind of products that we have across the different therapeutic areas, I would say we are predominantly in one country versus the other countries more stronger. And more, I would say, as we progress along, it would be good to understand, I would say, more regarding the customer's side or the patient side. So specifically in our women's healthcare portfolio, if I just give an example, I think the value of understanding our women and their needs, say in Southeast Asia, which has not been, I would say, traditionally the biggest markets for us, but that's the area where we would like to also venture. And similarly, so on and so forth in other therapeutic areas where there is at least some experience with trying and testing their own services, and then together there is a different product, which is a pill plus, as Himanshu also mentioned. That's gonna be really magical.
Okay. Oh, very nice. Prem, any other magical thoughts on this big topic?
Yeah, I just want to say that, often the issues within healthcare aren't necessarily a tech solution, or at least not a tech only solution. So, the thing that I really hunt for when I look at new innovation is, the alignment between the payers, providers, patients, pharma companies, med device companies, and where, the creation of the alignment of all those things. I think that's a big problem within healthcare, and I don't think we're going to get to in the next 5 years, but that's a space, and probably a financial solution that I think could be interesting for us to explore and look at, but haven't seen anything terribly compelling in that space yet.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much all for joining us today. I see we've gotten some great questions in the panel for the startup. Since we're running a little bit short on time, we'll go ahead and answer those offline. So thank you, panelists. We really appreciate your time and your thoughts. Certainly a lot to think about. I'd like to hand it back to Tom, who will close us out.
Great. Well, thanks again. What a wonderful hour to spend together to showcase our Accenture HealthTech Innovation Challenge for this year. Thank you again, Hima, Jimmy, and Prem for your insights. Right, this is about the ecosystem, and it's about advancing and bringing and harnessing innovation in collaboration with industry, with our traditional clients and that side of the market, and our startups. Norman, Zier, Sam, and Tyler, thank you. Our participants, and especially our finalists in this Health Tech Innovation Challenge over the year, have gone on to have tremendous success and collaborations with the industry amongst themselves and directly with Accenture. So I'd especially like to congratulate Tyler and the Medable team for winning our Top Innovator Award this year. And then lastly, the team that pulls this off under a lot of duress this year in coordinating, this Herculean event. So Laura, Francis, Susan Ziegler, as well as Steve and Casey and the broader team at Matter, whom we will continue to collaborate to advance science, solutions, and innovations in the health space. We thank you. And with that, we'll leave you for today. And hopefully you've learned a little bit, you've sparked some imagination, and you'll have something to take forward in your respective areas from today. We will follow up with some of the offline questions as mentioned, and we wish you a wonderful rest of your day.